Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Honda How To, and today we're going to pick up where we left off. This is going to be how to build a D-Series for Boost part 4, so stay tuned. Okay, so I don't know if I told you this in the previous episode, I can't remember, but this key that I made, it was a little bit too long. So as you can see, we shortened it in the back. It doesn't taper much on this Brian Crower cam, so just this amount of key should work. It's not going to go anywhere. So now we get to install our VMS cam gear. So we just get it lined up, get her to slide on there. There we go. All right. Now, just put our bolt on. And this bolt gets torqued to 27 foot-pounds. Okay. Wonder if it's gonna stay put. So if you guys are having a problem torquing your cam gear, and if you got an old trusty timing belt, all you do is you slip your old timing belt onto the cam gear and kind of pinch it together and then lift it up. And that should give you enough to torque it. Okay, so that's done. Now we are going to be installing our Gates Racing RPM timing belt. So, okay. What the fuck? Now we just need our crankshaft gear. We're going to put this sucker on. Yeah, it should stay there. Okay, now we're going to get everything to top dead center. This engine was at top dead center, but we've been screwing around with it and it's been moved quite a bit. So we're just going to recheck everything and make sure it's at top dead center. And then we're going to show you guys how to time this thing. Alright, now we're going to make sure that this thing's in time. So Derek, if you want to come over here and show these guys where we're lining up here. So on your crankshaft, usually there's an arrow on your oil pump. So you want to get this little notch on your crank gear to line up with that arrow, okay? Okay, so you put it around your crank gear, and you get it around your tensioner, and then you go around your water pump, just like that. Now, here comes the tricky part. Okay, so what you want to do, I'm just going to set this off to the side so you guys can see this. On a regular D16 Z6 cam gear, you have these indicators on your cam gear, okay? And you have an up label. If you don't have, there's usually a timing cover in here, okay? And if you don't have that, don't sweat, no big deal. You can always time it without that, but if you do have that timing cover, there will be a notch right about here and it will line up with this guy here, okay? Now if you don't have that timing cover, you can always use these two indicators here on the cam gear, okay? Well, look at here, it's on the new one too. We got one here and we got one here. So all you need to do to time this thing is you line these two lines on each side in a line with the deck of the head right here. So we're gonna do that now. Okay, let me get that wrench. Turn the wrench to the right. There we go. sure we didn't move here. We did, but I think if we turn it back, we'll be right on the money. Yep. Right on the money. Okay, so now this line is lined up with this mark, and these two marks are lined up with the deck of the cylinder head. Now we gotta set our belt tension. So all you want to do is you want to grab a 17 mil and get on the crank bolt, okay? And all you do is you put your hand on here and just hold it tight and pull back on the crank pulley. Not too much, but you'll feel this get tight. Okay? Once you feel that get tight, then you take a 14 mil and then you tighten your tensioner. And we're going to torque that too. I'd say that's about right. Not too terribly tight and not too loose. Now it's timed. Okay, now we're going to show you guys how to adjust the valves. On the intake side, Honda recommends from 0.007 to 0.009. We're gonna go 0.008. We're gonna go right in the middle, so it's within specs. So I'll show you guys how to do this. So what you want to do, you can do this in your car even if the engine runs. If you want to quiet down the valves a little bit, I mean, this is highly recommended. It'll feel more responsive. It helps out Honda engines a lot. But when you're doing a valve adjustment, if your car does run, you want to make sure it's stone cold. Don't get it warm and adjust the valves, because you know, obviously things expand and contract. But make sure it's ice cold. And then what you want to do is whatever valves you're setting. So we're going to be setting the intake valves first. So what you want to do is you want to turn this over, and you see how these intake valves are pushing down right now. You want to set your valves the furthest point away from the lobe on the cam. So those are loose right now. These are ready to be set, because where the rocker's sitting, that's a round part of the cam. It's not the lobed part. You want it on the round side of the cam. You can see in here, I can see the lobe sticking down. So that's what you want. Okay, so all you do is you take a feeler gauge and you go underneath this little peg here. So what you want to do, this is kind of a, you gotta really have a feel for it. And you don't want these too tight, you don't want them too loose. You just want a slight amount of drag on it. Like that's probably too much. If you can't really get your feeler gauge in there, you want to back it up just a little bit. You just want the slightest bit of drag on it. Like there, that's about right. And then what we're going to do, we're going to take our 10 mil wrench and we're just going to tighten it up. Keep it in place. There. Now we're going to double check it. See, it got too tight. Now we got to back it. See, that's way too tight. Now we just got to back it off. Just a hair. Come on. Jesus, am I that strong? There we go. Try that. That's way better. That's exactly how you want it. Just keep it still. Give it a nice snug. Yep, that's about right. Okay, then we move on to our next one. Same thing. I'm not gonna bore you guys with this. I'll show you these two, and it goes for the same on the exhaust. It's a feel thing. I mean, it's hard to explain over the camera, but you'll know. You don't want it really tight, you just want a slight bit of drag, like I said. And just, I mean, triple check, double check, triple check. I mean, you gotta check these things. Yeah, that's about right. Yep, that one should be good. So you just move down the line. Remember, the intake is 0.007 to 0.009, and the exhaust is 0.009 to what the hell is it? 0.011, I think it was. Yep. So do your intake and then do your exhaust. Make sure that the cam lobe is sticking down when you're adjusting those valves, and that's about it for that. Alright guys, so we just got back from a long vacation, so I'm wearing different things now. We kind of cut it short before we left, so I just want to get this little bit in here before we end the video. We're going to be installing brand new intake manifold studs, and we're going to be putting the intake manifold on, and we're going to be torquing it down. So let's get to that. Okay, so these are 1320 performance studs. These are going to be intake and exhaust studs for this engine. So all you do to install the studs, you put it in the hole, just drive it down with an Allen key.
Make it way easier.
And that's it. And then you just do the same thing for all of them. Okay, now we're going to put the intake manifold gasket on. I'd recommend a thermal gasket because they work a lot better, but this will do the trick. So all you do is set it on your studs, just like that. Okay. Now I'm going to put our intake manifold on. Well, unfortunately we figured out we're gonna have to kind of screw with the intake manifold a little bit. I don't know if it's Edelbrock's fault. I've never heard anybody have any problems with it. It might be the stud company. If you come look here, it's just a little too. The nut's too big. It won't fit in the little notch there. So we're gonna have to take a Dremel and kind of dish out a spot for those nuts to fit. We'll probably get that in the next video. So, okay, and another thing we wanted to add, we just took an OEM nut for the intake manifold, and we noticed it's actually the intake manifold that's doing this. See, this is the OEM nut for the intake. It won't even thread onto the stud because there's not enough room here. So when you guys are planning on getting an Edelbrock Performer X, be sure to note that you're gonna have to kind of round off right where the injectors are there. I think it works fine on the bottom, but let's see. Well, maybe here we'll check the bottom here quick.
These are nice ones.
Yeah, that one will fit. That one will fit. It's just the top ones. So the top one's right where the injectors sit in there. You're gonna have to take a Dremel and kind of work that out. So keep that in mind. So if you guys like this video, be sure to stay tuned, subscribe, and I hope to see you guys in the future. Peace.